You're listening to Scheduling Sin with me, Snowmill.
Welcome back for part 2 of our trip to the UK and our visit to Liberty Elite with the Vanilla to Vixen crowd for our party for the Chinese New Year for Mr. Snow's birthday. Shortly after that, we all dressed up and headed back to the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And we got back to the hotel at 2:30.
It was late. It was late.
3 in the morning, something like that.
Yeah.
Went to sleep, woke up. We were supposed to meet everybody downstairs.
We had kind of said, well, maybe for breakfast. Yeah, we didn't make it for breakfast because
No, breakfast did not happen. We told everybody we would meet them in the lobby at noon to figure out lunch. We didn't wake up until 11.
Yeah.
And we didn't really get out of bed until like 11:30.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason we didn't get out of bed.
We had sex again that morning.
Oh yeah, we had sex again. I feel like that's we had sex again.
I forgot about that. That is true, honestly.
Well, and I think the part about it was not only like, whatever, that's fine. Then you decided to post it on the Discord. Like, it wasn't like just a group chat of the people that we were meeting. You posted it in the general, oh, sorry, we're running late, morning sex.
Well, I just wanted to keep everyone informed.
Yeah, okay.
So
helpful.
So we went downstairs and it was suggested that we have lunch. There's a little like a bar restaurant attached to this small hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And the suggestion was made that we just stay there, partly because we're all here anyway, and partly because traffic, I guess, at Rugby is rough.
Well, yeah, just trying to find a place for all of us on a Saturday.
So we decided to stay at that little restaurant right there at the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to really meet a lot of the people from our Discord.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
It was quite the experience.
You know, we had Tina made it.
Tina, we got to meet the infamous
Tina Von Teese. Gigi was there.
Mm-hmm.
Gav and his gal,
lady friend
Tigress,
yes,
was there. We had Mr. and Mrs. H, and we had Jay and Tig.
Yeah.
And meeting all these people, for one thing, what I keep saying over and over again is that how many times has it happened in your life where you met people online, and then you go to meet them in person, and for whatever reason they're not what you thought they would be, or they're not.
Or it's vastly different.
Yeah, or it's vastly different, or whatever. This group of people was exactly as I hoped they would be. Mm-hmm. Every bit of everything.
Well, and it's exactly who they
be.
portray to be.
Absolutely.
I mean, talk about like authenticity.
Oh, these folks are amazing. And I kept saying it to all the people that we were there with. It felt like, even though we were meeting all these people for the first time, it felt like catching up with old friends.
Yeah.
It really, really did. And it was so... Oh, and Mike was there. Gigi's friend Mike was there too.
Oh, right. Yep.
And we got to meet everybody, and it was just... I couldn't believe it. We're sitting there at this table.
There were so many times for this entire weekend that I think we just had to just pause and be like, holy shit.
I can't believe we're here right now.
And none of this would have happened had we not picked up mics in April of 23.
Right.
That's crazy to think.
Yeah.
This community that we came across, we came to a different country.
Yeah.
And we're all sitting in this restaurant together, laughing and joking and just having a great time. That's just insane.
Right.
It was amazing.
Right. I mean, it was mind-blowing to consider that. Yes. Like, if you and I had never started this in April of 23, we would never have met these people. We would never have gone to the UK.
Yeah.
None of this would have ever happened. This has been such an incredible journey so far.
Yeah.
Just think of all the crazy things we've done in just the last year.
Right.
In a lot of ways around the podcast.
Yeah.
And here we have at this lunch table these these wonderful people
Yeah.
that we've gotten to know.
All these characters in our life.
They're amazing.
Yes,
They're
I
all
know.
amazing. And we're sitting here getting to talk to them in person.
Mhm.
And many of them made special plans to come out because we were going to be there.
Mhm.
Um,
And let's just say this. A good number of these people don't live in the area.
no. I mean, they're
Like
some
most all
number
of
of
them-
hours away.
Yeah, most all of them traveled a good distance.
Yeah.
I mean, a good distance
Yeah.
to be there.
Yeah.
Which is, again, like, it's not like they just come down the street because they live in the town. Like, no. The
No.
majority of these people live anywhere from 30 minutes to like 5 hours away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, how crazy is that?
It's crazy. And, you know, I will say this. It's super, super humbling.
It really is.
That these people went so far out of their way in various ways
Mhm.
to come see us and to see each other too. I mean, the Scheduling Sin Discord community is really great.
Mhm.
And
And it is just that. It is a community. And there have been so many connections that have been made outside of us.
oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, like, we have our people here that have made connections, not
Yeah.
only with people that are more local to them, but
Right.
also across the pond as well.
Yeah. And it's, you know, I think sitting around that table really put that into focus for us.
Yeah. It's very overwhelming.
It is.
And it almost is emotional to think
Yes.
about it.
Oh, it is. It absolutely is. So I just, you know, I can't thank these people enough for being there.
Mhm.
And a special shout out to Mr. H, because if not for him, we would have been sleeping in our car. when I
Yeah.
made the hotel reservations there at the secret hotel, I don't know if the website was messed up with time zones or what, but I put in the correct dates, but it took them as a day shift off.
Yeah.
So we were supposed to be there Friday night and Saturday night. It ended up taking the reservation for Saturday night and Sunday night.
Right.
And so I had a devil of a time. I never did manage to get in touch with them from over here. I tried the email route, the phone. I just couldn't get anything to go through. And I was talking about this on Discord, and Mr. H and Gigi both were doing their best to offer suggestions. And Mr. H chimed in and said, "Do you want me to just call them for you?" And he did. He called them. The hotel desk couldn't talk to him because he wasn't us. But he did get online and help us fix the reservation.
Yeah.
So super, super helpful. We really appreciated him doing that. Yeah, very, very generous of him. And we were excited also. It sounds like some of these people are coming to the United States.
Yeah.
It sounds like it. Gigi and Tina are threatening to come over in September.
Yes.
And Jay and Tig are planning to go out to Vegas, I think in March.
Is it March?
I think it's March, and go hang out with Misty and Lee.
Yeah.
So
Which will be so much fun for them. Knowing both of them now, like obviously we
it's
know.
going to be a fucking riot.
I know,
am
I'm so mad
pissed
we're
that
not
I'm
gonna be there.
miss that. That's going to be a fucking riot.
But I think we're gonna send our recorder with them.
We're
so
going to
they
send
can-
microphones and make them wear them the whole time.
the entire time.
And honestly, ostensibly for content purposes, but it's just because I have FOMO.
Yeah.
I just want to
Right.
listen to it later and pretend I was there.
Right.
But no, they're going to have so much fun. But it was so nice putting faces to the names and the screen names. And I'm
Mhm.
so bad at keeping all the screen names straight
Oh, right.
and who everybody is.
We'll take care of two names for everybody.
You kind of do.
Mm-hmm.
But lunch was just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
After lunch,
Yes.
we drove up to the world headquarters of Vanilla to Vixen,
right. The official studio of V2V.
the official studio of
Yes.
V2V, which is in Mr. and Mrs. N's home.
Yes.
And we got to meet their dogs.
Their dogs. Oh,
Their
their dogs
dogs
are
are
so
amazing.
freaking cute. I love their dogs.
And
We're not dog people necessarily, but we just love their dogs. They're so sweet.
oh, they're so nice. And they have a beautiful home. And we got to see the door.
The actual door.
The
that
actual
is-
door. So the podcast art of of Vanilla to Vixen has Mrs. N standing in front of a door with her panties around her ankles.
Right.
and we got to see the door.
The door.
Not just any door, but the door.
Mhm. But they were so sweet to just welcome us in their home.
Yeah.
I mean, just
It's amazing because I listen to them regularly because I have a very long commute. You catch up when you can, but you don't have the windshield time that I do.
Right.
So I listen to them all the time. It was amazing having heard their voices for all this time.
Yeah.
And to be standing in their studio where they recorded all of those things
Yeah.
that I listened to. That was kind of
a cool moment.
I was fanboying pretty hard.
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously we recorded the episode that we aired last week, which we both released on the same day, which is super fun.
Which is the first time we've ever done that.
I know, a crossover
episode.
I know, so fun. So that episode will have aired for us last week as well for them for last week, but it's the same episode.
Same episode.
So, I mean, that was just, we had so much fun. Just so much fun, just sitting and talking and laughing. And it's like you're hanging out with your best friends.
It was. And honestly, I think we were sore from laughing so hard.
Oh my gosh.
That episode was hilarious. And I got to tell the joke.
Yes, the joke.
Mr. Ed always tells a horrible joke at the beginning of every episode.
Well, and we talked about having like a dad swinger joke book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
we need to get working on that. But I got to tell the joke. That's a big deal.
I guess it is.
I guess it is.
Yeah.
It was an okay joke.
It was all right.
It probably wasn't my best, but it was on short notice.
I understand.
Yeah.
Pressure.
Never. So anyway, we got to tell some amazing stories from the Friday night before, including the woman who could shoot dildos out of her pussy and Hatties. And Hatties are important. If you didn't catch up on last week's episode, I recommend that you just hit the pause button and go listen to it right now.
Oh gosh.
But there was a conversation, and this is important for later.
It's important.
But there was a conversation about Hatties. And what is a Hattie? A Hattie, apparently, this is what we learned, we didn't know, is that it's where a woman stands up over a man who presumably is like sitting upright and puts her pussy down on his head. And he wears her like a hat.
Yeah. I don't
quite understand.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand fetishes and all the things, and I understand the concept of being stretched. That's hot. But that's not that's
well, I don't think we had so many questions. Again, if you didn't listen to last week, just hit pause now, go back, listen to last week's episode. We'll catch you right up. But we
went over all of the questions.
Yeah, we did. We talked about everything. But so we hit on Hatties.
Yes.
And we finished the episode. And after we were done, we all started getting ready to go to Libs.
Right, because
for the party.
So we were they were hosting their Chinese New Year V2V event.
Yep, the theme was Chinese New Year.
And so they were gracious enough letting us get ready at their house.
Yep.
And I just remember standing in their kitchen, like just chit-chatting. And
who were you chatting with?
I was texting my fella.
And who is your fella?
I was texting with Captain Barbarossa.
So the captain
with and so I was being very vixeny.
If you're listening to this, you should know that we're standing in Mr. and Mrs. N's kitchen.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Snow.
Mrs. N is upstairs getting dressed.
Yeah, Mrs. N had gone upstairs to get dressed. Mrs. Snow is standing in their kitchen wearing this red dress with her big tits showing. And she is standing there grinning. Just this evil grin.
Evil is
and
not...
she keeps stopping the conversation to patter on her phone while she flirts with Captain Barbarossa. She was having so much fun. And I think that Mr. N was having a lot of fun watching you.
I was having fun putting on a show for you boys.
Yeah. So
It was so much fun.
so that was fun.
You know, you say, and I'm going to blame you. You have created a brat,
I have.
like just a sexy vixen brat.
Yeah.
And you're 100% right on that. And I play into that. And it's so fun
I love it though.
because I know it turns you on.
It does.
so much.
I don't know why
And
it
I
turns me
think
on, but it does.
Mr. N got a little randy.
I think Mr. N liked it. I think he did.
Oh, that was fun.
So we're getting all ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
But the funniest bit of this is that Debs works at the club. She works at Libs, and she's helping to run the door and these kinds of things. Well, Mr. N cannot stop himself. He just can't do it.
Because
Cannot-
again, as the host, he's in charge of the guest list.
He's in charge of the guest list. He cannot stop himself from adding
adding more
new
people.
people to the guest list. He just can't say no. So we're up to like 112 couples or
Well,
something
and
like
then
that.
he uses me.
He did. He absolutely did.
He said, "What do you think, Mrs. Snow? Should we allow this couple in? They're hot." And I didn't even have. To be fair, I didn't like look that hard, right? I was like, "Sure," and then he calls Miss Delicious Debs
So Debs already, and this came up on
Friday.
This came up at the pub. It was so funny. She's like, "You have got to stop letting people in here. I'm gonna fucking kill you."
He loves to fuck with her.
And
It's so funny. And he like calls her.
yeah, and he calls her and says, "Hey,
He puts her on speaker and he's like, "I've added 7 more couples."
Mrs. Snow said I should."
Threw me under the bus.
Yeah, but you don't fuck with Debs.
No,
Debs is the boss.
she is.
But oh god, that was so funny.
Yeah.
You know, and he was so pleased with himself. He added a few more people, and he's like, "Oh, she's gonna kill me." But so we were all having fun with that. We got the car all loaded up
Mm-hmm.
with all the decorations, and off we went to go to Libs. We got there
We got there early.
a little bit early, so the club opens at 8:30. We got there at about 7:30.
It was interesting. I mean, obviously, very different vibes between Friday night and Saturday night, but we were there before anybody else was there. It was completely empty.
Yeah,
So we had the whole so that was kind of a cool thing to be there before
it was.
everybody was there, right?
It was kind
So
of a neat moment.
It was a really cool moment. Like talk about behind the curtain moment, right?
Right.
Obviously, we'd been there before, so we were kind of familiar with things, but to be able to just be there with nobody else there.
Right.
And so, so we helped them with decorations.
Yeah, we put out 4,999 fortune cookies because Mr. N ate one of them.
Right. Yes. And so we sprinkled those around
Yep.
and we helped them decorate. And I guess Mr. N thought it would be a fun idea. Well, they were shooting a promo.
Right. They were going back there recording like a promo video, I think, for Vegas Vixens.
Right. And so he so graciously offered,
Mrs. N looked at you and said, come on.
let's go.
And we all went running back to the playroom, didn't we?
We did. And I wore my podcast panties, the
Yes.
official panties of the podcast.
Well, you had to. It was Vanilla to
It was
Vixen
Vanilla to
on
Vixen.
Saturday
It was
night.
Saturday night. It was Chinese New Year, so red was obviously the color.
You had
And
to
I had
wear
a
them.
red dress, and I was wearing those nice red lacy panties underneath my red dress.
Yeah.
And so so Mr. N and Mrs. N graciously offered, because typically phones are not allowed in the club, right? Like you don't take pictures in the club, but obviously because nobody was there, they allowed us to take some photos in the back room.
Right. Well, they had done their video,
Mm-hmm.
and then they asked us, "Do you guys want to take any pictures?" or
And by
anything
this
like
time,
that?
a couple of their crew had arrived.
Yes,
Like they were helping set up and help hosting. And
other
that
members
kind
of the
stuff.
crew had arrived. People,
Yeah.
that, for the most part, I think we had met.
Yeah.
And then, so they asked you. They said, "Do you want to take some pictures back here?" And at first, you said, "I don't know. I think I'm okay." And then I was like, "Oh, come on." So you ditched the dress.
I totally took the dress
just
off.
took the dress off.
Yeah.
And from there, I couldn't get you to stop taking pictures in there.
Yes.
But
so I was naked with my little red panties on.
yeah, so you were up on the
big
edge of the
bed.
big bed,
Mm-hmm.
and we were taking some sexy pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. N even found his way into a couple of them.
He did.
And then the door opened, and Saucy walked in.
Now, mind you, I have hardly talked to this man.
I have not had a chance to speak to him, but I've heard so much about him
Yes.
on the V2V podcast. I've heard his episode. I've talked to him a little bit on Discord.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful man.
Yeah.
Absolutely wonderful man. He comes in, sees what's going on, and he says, oops, sorry. And he starts to turn, and I said, you don't have to leave.
He goes, okay.
And he says, oh, good. And he immediately strolls across the room directly in front of Mrs. Snow.
Who's
sits-
naked, by the way.
completely naked, sits down on the bed and just perches, just enjoying the view. We're going to put this picture on Twitter. It was spectacular.
I was sitting there, with my back turned so he could take pictures of me from behind.
Yes.
And there was Saucy on the other side of me, just perched, looking, just
Oh.
watching with his little hand under his chin.
Yes.
Like,
So-
what am I looking at here?
This picture will post to
Oh my
Twitter
gosh.
on the same day that this episode airs.
So funny.
So check us out on Twitter. It's at Scheduling Sin.
gosh.
And you can see Saucy himself, with his permission, of course, enjoying Mrs. Snow in
My
the
little
big
photo
playroom. But that was so funny. And then after that, we decided that every time Mrs. Snow sees Saucy throughout the night, because he
I
was
just
giving
showed him my
tours,
tits.
she flashed him every single time she saw him after that.
Yeah, like he was giving tours all night, which that's a whole nother joke. And I was in the hot tub and he was giving a tour to a new couple. And I just hopped out of the water and was like, hi there.
Hey, Saucy.
Hey, Saucy.
I
Hey,
think
Saucy, you want to see my tits?
he
Oh my
was
gosh.
heartbroken every time.
He was so sad. I think at the end of the night, he said, I'm starting to like Americans
Yeah, because this one shows me your tits every time I
all
walk
the
by.
time. So that was a little
I-
joke.
that was one thing I was bummed about is obviously we got to kind of meet Saucy, but he was so busy.
He was.
I mean, the running joke 3 days after the thing was over on Discord was that he still had 2 more tours to do. It was just nonstop, and they were doing it all night long. So we didn't get a chance to stop and talk to Saucy, and that's something I would like to do. I think we should try to have him on the podcast.
Yeah. Well, I guess that means we just have to go back.
Or we could do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's an option. But I really wish we'd had more chance to talk to Saucy.
Mm.
But that's kind of how the night started. And then everybody started to filter in.
Yeah.
The guests to the party started to filter in.
The vibe was very different.
So different.
So different.
From
I mean,
one night to
I
the
think
next.
it was more our age group crowd
Yes.
for one.
Yes.
It was newbies. I mean, there were a fair amount of newbies there.
Yeah.
But it was just a very welcoming environment, very friendly environment.
Somehow it seemed a lot friendlier and more
Yeah.
personable
Mm-hmm.
than the Hot Wives night.
Right. And I think part of that is we knew a number of people, but
Yeah.
even the people we didn't know were just very friendly.
Very friendly, very open. You know, going back to the Hot Wives night for a minute, in the playroom, there were people having sex everywhere.
Everywhere.
I mean, the big bed was completely full.
Mm-hmm.
All of the little beds were full.
Mm-hmm.
There had to be in that one room alone 40 people having sex,
Yeah.
but you could just about heard a pen drop.
Yeah. It was very quiet and it wasn't,
It was awkward almost.
it was almost awkward. It was very, it just seemed very mechanical.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, Mrs. N and I kind of joked that like, it almost seems like they're not really even having fun.
yeah. Right. But you compare that to Saturday.
A
and
lot
I
of
know
moaning.
I know I'm skipping ahead to here just a little bit,
Oh,
but the playroom was much more lively on
it
Saturday
was,
night.
and it was way fun.
It was way fun. So people were starting to filter in.
Mm-hmm.
They had a photographer there.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really cool touch. They had one of
Yes.
those great big, it was like a
Backdrops.
Chinese New Year backdrop thing.
Mhm.
And they had a photographer there he was a wonderful man.
He was a
Um,
good friend of Mr. and Mrs. N, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. He was wonderful, really funny
Yes.
and
Very cheeky.
very cheeky.
I mean, he took a lot of pictures of a lot of things that night. So.
He did. He took a lot of pictures that night.
Yeah.
But one of the things, being that it was Chinese New Year's, and that was a great theme, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
For themes for swinger parties, that was a really good one.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to recognize the phenomenal outfits
Oh my gosh.
that we saw on some of our friends.
Yes.
Starting with Mr. and Mrs. N. Mr. N was rocking this long black Asian coat.
Right, with the high neck and kind of the embroidery on it a little bit with the black kind of silky
With the buttons
fabric
and
with
the
the
loops.
buttons and the loops. Yeah.
It was a
Mhm.
very nice look.
Yes.
Very nice look. And Mrs. N was in this beautiful Asian
Blue
themed
dress.
blue dress
Yeah.
with this very suspicious zipper
Mm-hmm.
across her upper chest.
Yes.
But she looked phenomenal. Mr. and Mrs. H were bringing it hard.
They were. She looked gorgeous.
Absolutely gorgeous.
She had like kind of another one of those like Oriental type dresses, but she just was
She
rocking
was
it.
rocking that. She
Yeah.
looked amazing.
And she had this really nice I'm gonna say jacket, but it was like this kind of crop top jacket, like
Yeah.
with the fur. It was just so pretty.
Yeah.
She looked amazing.
She looked great.
But her husband also looked amazing.
yeah, he brought it pretty hard
he
too.
did.
He had this gold trimmed black jacket.
It was like gold. It was a black jacket with gold, like dragony Oriental.
It was
like,
really
pattern
cool.
all over it. It was awesome.
It was super cool.
and he had his nails to match.
Yep, then the gold nails and the
Ugh.
gold watch.
Yes.
Yeah, he's very snazzy.
Very snazzy.
Very snazzy. Gav brought it with the dragon shirt.
Yeah. He had a black and red dragon shirt. Oh man.
And the foxies.
oh,
Oh, the
She was-
foxies.
she came as a dragon.
She did. She came as a dragon. It was like a pink bodysuit type of thing.
Yes.
Fit her very well.
Oh, she looked hot.
She looked fucking hot.
She looked
And
amazing.
it was like low cut is almost
well,
ridiculous.
it was like a deep V almost down to her
almost
navel.
down to her navel. And
Yeah.
her tits were out.
Oh, tits were beautiful.
Tits
and
were
she had little
beautiful. And she had
beautiful
the
little
nipple
tassels.
She had the tassels going. And on top of all of that,
Yes.
she had these black
Wings.
wings, like angel wings.
Right, but they were dragon wings.
Or dragon wings, yeah. And then she had the horns. Then
I
she had this
know.
little head thing with the horns on it.
Yeah. She was rocking that
She was
outfit.
absolutely rocking that outfit.
And he was wearing, similar to Mr. N, but his was like red and black.
And it was like silky.
It was very
It was
silky.
like pants and a jacket.
Yeah. And just we obviously couldn't get
We failed at the
we
theme.
failed miserably, but
We failed.
my tits came out, so it was fine. But
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, but they looked so good.
Yeah.
So the vibe was quite different that night. One of the questions we were asked at the club a lot, and even now on Discord and Twitter and things, was how are things different between American clubs
Right.
and UK clubs?
Correct. Like what's the differences or similarities?
And the truth of the matter is, I am not sure that I really found a lot of differences.
I mean, there are definitely some subtle differences. One of the things is the bar alcohol. I think all of the clubs that we have been to in the States, I don't think they have liquor licenses. So typically you bring your own booze. And so some of them, like basically booze is 100% on you, right? They may provide some mixers, but there are some that like will keep it behind the bar and serve it or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
This was like a full bar.
Full bar. Sure.
Yeah, a sort of a commercial style bar. But again, that is such a subtle difference. I felt like there really wasn't a significant difference in the club. This club had a rule in the bar area
When you first walk in.
that nudity and play were not allowed in that area.
Yeah.
You could be in a towel, but that's as nude as you could be.
Well, I guess you forgot to mention Big Dick Guy on Friday.
Oh, big dick guy. Well, he broke the rules on Friday night.
We talked
single
about him, I
males
guess.
night. He was walking around he had a giant cock.
He did.
I mean, that cock was freaking huge.
Yeah, he was naked.
I mean,
But that's,
honestly, if I had a dick like that, I'd break the rules too.
I get it.
But anyway, I I thought we talked about that some because our experiences have been in the clubs that we've been in. There were not areas that you could not be nude in or play in.
Right.
Nudity and play was allowed anywhere in the clubs that we have been to. That's not the case with this one.
Seems to be a little bit more separate, purposely so.
Purposely so. And actually, I thought the reason was very interesting. So in the history of this club's been there a long time.
Mm-hmm.
In the history of this club, it was decided that in an effort to make the club approachable to new people,
right,
they wanted to have a space when you first walked into the club that was not nudity and sex.
Well, it's not so in your face.
Not so in your face, because
Yeah.
the way it was explained was for anybody that might have preconceived notions about what deviant things go on in a sex club,
Mm-hmm.
what they might expect to see when they walk through the door the first time is everybody's naked having sex.
Yeah.
And so the way they did it here was to create a space when you walk in where that is not going on,
Mm-hmm.
and you can kind of come in and get a drink and catch a
socialize.
vibe and so forth,
Yeah.
and then move into those areas. And I thought that was pretty smart.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that.
It definitely takes that pressure off as well when you walk in as a new couple.
Yes,
Because to walk into, like, if you walked into like just a big old playroom, that can be very overwhelming.
Yeah.
The
The one thing though that I will say is that it seemed a little bit unclear, even to us, where nudity and play were allowed.
mm-hmm.
So like they had the cross and the spanking bench just off the dance floor area, which is kind of attached to the bar area.
But it's not by the front door at all.
No,
like,
it's
you really
not by
have
the
to
front
kinda
door,
go around.
but it wasn't like obviously clear
Mm-hmm.
whether or not you were permitted to be nude and or playing in that area.
Right.
And when we asked people about it, everybody's response was like, not really sure. So a little more clarity on that specific rule would be helpful, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But that was kind of the difference there. But other than that, honestly, I thought,
Yeah, I mean, most of the clubs that we have been to have a big bed play area. They have private little rooms as well.
yeah,
Yeah. There's a dance floor.
sure.
There's a social area.
Yeah,
there's a
just
bar.
generally
you know what
all
I mean?
the
It's
same
pretty.
stuff.
Obviously, they're all different shapes in terms of just the shapes of the building.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay, so one question we got from the Discord was the buffet.
Oh, the buffet.
Is it as good as Mrs. N always makes it sound like?
So we had lunch obviously on Saturday, and we didn't have much of a dinner. So by the time 10:30 rolled around and the buffet came out, I was on it. Because we were in the hot tub and it was like 10:25, and I was like, we have got to go to this buffet.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so we were in this was a thing. So we're in the hot tub.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to play. You hadn't eaten. I guess I hadn't eaten either, really. Well, we didn't have a lot. We were at that Indian place. We didn't eat a lot.
Well, no, this is Saturday night.
Oh no, Saturday night. Right. We hadn't eaten. So, I wanted to go play. You wanted to hit the buffet.
Make
We
me
were
sound
in
like a
the
fat
hot tub.
kid.
No,
Like,
I don't. I
I
was
was
hungry
the
too.
fat horny
My-
kid that was so
But
torn.
my fear was, and this was later proven right, is if we get out of this hot tub
Mm,
and we go to the buffet, we're gonna lose our spot.
yeah.
And sure enough, by the time we got back, the playroom was much
Well,
busier.
to be fair, we went to the buffet and we didn't go straight back to the hot tub. We mingled and
That's true. That's true. We did do that.
Chit chatted
We
quite a
did
bit
do
with a
that.
lot of different people, and we met that couple that I'm very excited about. We met that couple that also has a podcast, and they're like
yes.
a kink fetish podcast.
Yeah, they do a BDSM podcast.
Yes, and so they were super fun and very nice, and we exchanged information, and we are very excited. We will definitely be having them on the show.
Yeah, they're going to be on for sure.
And so we'll put that on the Discord about when we do that, so you guys can send in your questions related to that. But I think that's going to be an amazing episode.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
So, and then while we were in the hot tub, we had a very interesting conversation with an older couple and a newbie couple.
Yeah. So that was really kind of cool to be. That's one thing about that space. It's very social. It's much quieter. And it really gives you an opportunity to chit chat and get to know people. And there was an older couple in their 60s in one corner, and a new couple that this was their first night at the club.
Yeah.
The first night. And they were a little younger. Very nice. And then there was a couple that I think had been in the lifestyle for a while and had been together forever.
Yeah.
And we were all just talking.
Yeah.
And it was so cool. Because one of the women in there, the other, not the new couple or the older couple, but the couple that I think are closer to us, I guess, in age, what was just very social and very outgoing and asked some questions and really tried to engage in some conversation. And she asked the older couple, like, how long have you been in the lifestyle and what are your thoughts about it? And I think she was really seeking that as an older couple.
Right.
How has this been helpful or whatever? And it was just an amazing conversation that, this older gentleman kind of just talked about that they hadn't been in the lifestyle for
3 years.
3 years. They hadn't been in there for super long. They've been together for over 45.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
And how it had improved their communication.
Right.
And improved their sex life.
Yep.
And I don't think that they were really there to play per se. I think they were there just as they said they enjoyed the environment, enjoyed the company and the people.
And actually, he had told us up to now, they've been in the lifestyle for 3 years, but they still have not swapped or anything with anybody like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important point in that they have not, quote unquote, done anything
right
with anybody else, but still are very much to be considered to be in the lifestyle.
I think you learn about this is everybody gets different things out of this.
Right.
And it may very well be dependent on where you are in your life, where you are in your relationships, what it is that you want. And not everybody wants to just fuck everybody else in this at all.
And there are people out there who decide that they're going to take on the mantle of deciding who is and isn't a real swinger.
Yeah.
And there's a group of people that believe the hot wife communities are not real swingers.
Mm.
And those people really piss me off because the fact of the matter is that I think just being a member or part of the lifestyle is really just to say that you're a part of this group of people who's empowered and free to enjoy themselves sexually.
Right.
And however it is you might want to do it.
Absolutely.
This idea that we would call somebody a real swinger or a not a real swinger is utter bullshit.
I agree.
And I was really excited to see them just enjoying themselves and having a good time. And one of the things that he had said is, I wish we had done this 20 years ago.
Well, yeah. And so we had talked about, we kind of mentioned our podcast and we mentioned the title of it being Scheduling Sin. And I think that really resonated with him. And he said, you have to schedule these things. You have to prioritize your marriage and your life and that those times to connect with your spouse.
Right.
And he really spoke to that. And it was just so beautifully said.
It was.
He's like, I wish, looking back on my life and our marriage and our relationship, I wish we had prioritized certain aspects.
Right.
I didn't get the sense that he had regrets per se, but just, as kind of, it was just kind of one of these sweet moments, like as an older, wiser couple, right? Like everyone goes to the couple that's been married for 45 years. What's the secret to marriage? You know what I mean? And I think he was very much spouting out prioritizing your marriage, prioritizing your relationship.
Right.
Because I think as we talk about, as this is the title of our fucking show, it is so hard to balance and schedule times for us to be adults.
Right.
Because we're so engrossed in our jobs and our families and our kiddos and all so I think it really just spoke to that. And it was just really reaffirming to hear, because I think there were periods of this time that we were planning on going on this trip and leaving our family, leaving our kids, and that parent guilt sets in of why, you can't leave your kids, and why are you why are you doing something for you, and really you should be with your children and you should be home, and we question that. We question that kind of throughout this time, and to have someone at that stage of their life turn to us and say you have to prioritize these things was really like reaffirming.
It was. And as weird as this is to say, in order for a parent, a person, to be the best person that they can be for their families,
Mm-hmm.
they have to be the best version of themselves.
Yeah.
And we all do it as parents and as employees and all these things. We all sacrifice for these things that we feel responsible to.
Well, our different roles.
And our different roles. But
Yeah.
but we often forget that if you don't make time to make yourself a whole person, then you're not going to be able to serve any of those roles
Yeah.
in the best way that you could.
Right.
Happy people are more successful people in every aspect of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of how I took what they said,
Yeah.
was that we wished we had this level of connection between us that long ago,
Yeah.
and that we hadn't waited until now. And it doesn't matter whether you're full swinging and swapping and gang banging or whether you're just sitting in a hot tub with friends.
Right.
That the fact of the matter is you are enjoying yourself.
Right.
Right. And that's what being in the lifestyle is all about.
Right. Being authentic. One of the things that I remember, one of our members of our Discord saying that we met, he made the statement that I am much more shy and reserved, and I'm not outgoing, and I'm very much to myself in my real vanilla life.
Yeah.
And one of the things that he really appreciated about this community, he 100% can be himself.
Yeah.
100% can be himself.
I thought that was a
His
really, really
weird,
cool comment.
quirky, fun self.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, it's so amazing. I also have to stop and think, how sad is that you can't be yourself in real life? But I'm also grateful, and it's amazing that that you have the space and community and place to do that.
Well, yes. And we're sitting here in a hot tub naked with people we don't know.
Yeah.
Having conversations about sex and about life and about all these things.
Mhm.
Where else
Mhm.
can you do this?
Right.
If not here, where else? Because everywhere else you go, the conversations they're guarded. Sometimes they're competitive.
Mm-hmm.
We're busy worrying about our Instagram lives and not our real lives.
Mm-hmm.
We're wearing these masks all the time.
Yeah.
And this environment is the only one that I've been in where people seem to take their masks off.
100%.
And in this club, one of the things I thought was really cool was with this jacuzzi. And the jacuzzi in this club, I cannot stress it enough that the jacuzzi, in my opinion, is the heartbeat of this club.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
Because it is the place where everybody goes to just chill
Mm-hmm.
and relax and laugh and have fun, and it's big, right? But occasionally people would walk up to the jacuzzi and they kind of look up the stairs and kind of get a glimpse of how many people were in there. Everybody was always quick to come on, we'll make room, come on in.
Mm-hmm.
People of all kinds of body types and ages and sizes,
Yeah.
were when you walk into or out of the jacuzzi, you're essentially on stage for everybody sitting in that jacuzzi.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not weird.
No
matter what you look like, it's not weird.
Yeah. There's no awkwardness at all.
It's amazing.
Mhm.
And I got to say, I was super impressed
Yeah.
with the jacuzzi.
Yeah.
So after the buffet,
Which, by the way, is as good as Mrs. Hinton says it is.
it is pretty good.
It's a good spread.
There's a lot of different stuff on it.
A lot of good stuff.
A lot of good stuff. After the buffet, we decided, first of all, we walked to the buffet through a massive crowd of dressed people in our towels. We were the only ones in our towels.
Yeah,
out there.
at that point of the evening.
At that point of the evening at 10:30, which is early by Swingers Club standards. And so we're like having buffet food. And then we go wandering around and we decided, okay, well, instead of jumping right back in the jacuzzi, we're going to go meander around. So we went and put some clothes on, like our dress down stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I had my pineapple Shinesties on and my button down shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And you had, I think you had your dress back on.
I did.
At this point. So
it was like a slip dress.
yeah.
you
So
just
we're
had to put it
like
back
walking
on.
around talking to people. And I went over because Mrs. N and Miss Foxy were sitting there on the couch.
Yeah, they were just chit-chatting.
Yeah. And I went over there and because they had asked me about my Shinesties earlier. And I went over there and I said, hey, check these out. Aren't these soft?
Aren't they soft? They're softer when they're on my body versus when they're not. You should feel them.
That's what I said.
Basically, come feel me up, ladies.
Touch me. So they did.
So
come
they
over
did.
and
Yeah,
they're
like I mean, you
they're
know,
like
that's
rubbing
implicit
on
consent.
on my underwear and stuff like that, and all that's good. And I turned around so they could rub my booty, and out of nowhere,
Oh, out of nowhere.
out of
Oh,
nowhere
jeez.
comes this hand
This hand.
slides up between my legs forward and cups my cock and balls in a way that I've never been cupped before in my life. I just about jumped 3 feet in the air. It felt so damn good.
Oh
and
my
I turned around and I was like, well, hello.
Yes.
And Miss Foxy is back there just laughing.
What's her signature
And that
move?
is the cupping of the balls is her signature move.
From underneath.
From underneath. So I got a cupping from Miss Fox. I felt like I was on the team at that point.
That's the indoctrination.
That cupping.
Feeling Mrs. N's boobs and getting cupped. I mean, what else do you need?
What else do you need?
What a fucking spectacular birthday you had, right?
I know. It just keeps getting better. So that felt amazing. I could have let her do that for a while.
I'm sure you could have.
That was amazing. And my understanding is that move right there has set off quite a few people.
I've heard that.
So that was the cupping. And then shortly after that, I was sitting next to Mr. Foxy on the fireplace.
Right.
And this two gorgeous women.
They were pretty hot.
They were gorgeous.
They were gorgeous women.
They come sauntering in
in their next to nothing hot lingerie
to chat with Mrs. N, Miss Foxy, and Mrs. Snow.
Right.
And,
so you guys were sitting across from us and it was kind of open.
Yeah, we're like sitting across from them. They're kind of on like a couch and he and I are just sitting on the edge of this fireplace. These two women come walking in and they are face level, like with their asses. It was glorious.
Yeah.
And they're standing there talking and Mr. Foxy looks at me and says, "This is not a bad place to sit."
No, not at all.
And
because they had beautiful asses.
They did. One of these ladies,
it was
Mrs.
really
Snow
funny.
is talking to her and she can't quite hear her. So she's like bent way forward.
So she could hear me.
To listening to Miss Snow.
With her ass facing these two yahoos.
Perfect. And then I think Mrs. Snow caught on to the fact that she needed to speak more loudly. And so she did. And then this woman starts to stand back up. And Mr. Foxy looks at me and he's like, "Oh my gosh, we got to get her to tone her voice down again."
He told me later, he goes, "I'm disappointed in you." And I was like, "What?" Then he told me, like, when you weren't talking so loud, that ass was in my face. But then you started talking louder. She stood up and her ass was out of my face. I'm so sorry I disappointed you.
So one of the questions that was asked was, did we have any negative or bad experiences?
Well, yes.
And there was one example of a bad experience.
Well, this also answers another question.
It answers another question.
Did we play on the big bed?
We did.
We did.
So we were in the play area on the big bed.
Right.
Mrs. Snow we did a lot of things on that bed.
We did.
But at this moment, Mrs. Snow was on her back.
Well, it's not where we started.
No, it's not where we started, but that's where this happened. So we had been in all sorts of positions up before then.
Mm-hmm.
But at this moment, Mrs. Snow is on her back.
Mm-hmm.
She's spread eagle.
Spread eagle.
Yeah, so the legs are wide open.
And there are couples around us.
Oh yeah, there's couples all over the place. Funny side note on that. One couple said something like,
It's
sincerely
nice to
like,
meet you, being your bed neighbors.
and we still have no
I
idea
don't
who
know who
they
that
were.
was.
I mean, honestly, they could be any one of like 6 different people.
Yeah.
So if you're listening, give us some information. But anyway, the Mrs. Snow is on her back, spread eagle,
Yeah.
and I am fingering her pussy.
Very wet, cum-filled pussy.
Very
my
wet,
dad.
cum-filled pussy. She's soaking wet. And she is rapidly approaching orgasm.
Yes.
And she was getting really, really close to just coming all over the place.
And I'm looking around, seeing all these hot people fucking around me. It's such a hot environment.
Yeah.
It's such a hot environment.
And then out of nowhere comes this hand
Yes.
on
my thigh.
on the inside of rubbing down the inside of her thigh.
And it startled me.
Yeah. And startled me too. And I stopped and I looked, and there's this guy
Who I had
standing
not
there.
talked to, who I had no idea who he was.
Yeah, no idea who he was.
Yeah.
No consent was given at all. for
None at
this.
all.
And on the big bed, just for clarification of the club, even though it's the big bed,
Right.
there is never implied consent
Correct.
anywhere in this club.
Anywhere. And I think that's probably true in most clubs in most areas, unless otherwise. Because I feel like that one club, there was a specific sign that said, if you put your, like, 'cause that's where the female glory holes,
Yeah.
right? Like, you're kind of implying consent here, right? But that's obviously a very specific environment.
That's a very specific situation. But
Right.
at this club, there's no implied consent
correct.
anywhere in the club. And this happened exactly as she was about to come.
I know.
And it just broke everything.
Sure.
And we stopped and looked at this guy, and he's standing there.
Well, and you kind of waved him on, like, no,
yeah,
man.
I did. I kind of gave him the like, go away, man. And he just didn't even really move.
No.
And then everybody just jumped on him.
Oh, man. There was this woman from across the room who I think was one of the hosts, one of the crew. And she ran across the room and she scolded him.
Yeah.
She's like, you never under any circumstance touch anybody without their consent.
Right.
And so, so she kind of got on him, and then I think Mr. N got word of it and he gave him the right. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I think.
And you were not the only woman he had touched.
Yeah.
He was actually walking around the room touching multiple women.
Right.
Yeah.
And
which is
so
way out of bounds.
It's way out of bounds and very inappropriate and definitely not tolerated. And I it's so, you think about these environments. I mean, like, obviously you're incredibly vulnerable because there I was, like, spread the fuck out, like, mid almost orgasm. Talk about being vulnerable. There are not very many environments where you would feel that protected.
Right. Well, and this is kind of like, it's a bad story with a happy ending.
Well, yeah, it's like just a reassuring environment. Like, here I am, and this is not normal. And this is not normal for this club and these types of events. I mean, I think sometimes it happens because there are some people but I think this guy got kicked out.
He didn't actually get kicked out.
Oh, I thought he did.
No, because he was walking around all night with his wife after that.
Yeah.
But he was very sternly talked to.
Yeah.
And the threat was there.
Yeah. If you do it again, you're out.
It was explained to him very clearly that this is against the rules, and if you do it again, you're out.
Yeah.
And I think that might even mean a permanent ban.
Yeah.
But the point is, where I say it's a happy ending, is that although that happened and stuff like that happens, you can't be in an event where people come from all over the place and expect there to be nobody who misbehaves.
Sure.
And so the good thing that came from that, and bravo to Libs and the V2V crew, was that they did not tolerate it even for a heartbeat. And more importantly, they were watching.
Right.
Somebody saw it happen, and they did not hesitate to
jump
react
all over
to
his
it.
ass. Yeah.
And that speaks volumes
Right.
to the group of people that run that club
Mm-hmm.
and to run that party, that they are paying that close of attention to take care of their guests.
Yes.
That was huge. So,
And I think they all came up to me and they're like, "Are you okay? Is everything okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm pissed off that I didn't get to finish."
I was going to say, basically, I'm just mad I didn't come.
Right.
But, yeah, no, it was a bad thing that happened, but it could not have been handled any better.
Oh, sure.
So that was one. So as this night wore on, it ended up in where it always ends up, in the jacuzzi.
In the jacuzzi.
And by now, we're all in the jacuzzi, and the crew is done with their tasks.
Right.
And the crew's in the jacuzzi with us.
Mm-hmm.
We had Debs in there,
Mm-hmm.
Mr. and Mrs. N in there,
Mm-hmm.
even Tig and Jay were in there.
Mm-hmm. Mr. and Miss Foxy.
They weren't in the hot tub with us.
Oh, Miss Foxy was.
Yes, Miss Foxy was.
Yeah.
And several other people.
Mhm.
And we were just laughing.
Oh my gosh. Hysterically laughing.
I think some people came and joined us in the hot tub who said earlier in the night, we're not going to get in the hot tub because of the chlorine or one thing or another. But they got in there anyway. And when I asked them later why, they said it because you guys were having so much damn fun, I couldn't miss it.
Well, and there was a point where Mrs. N said usually when you're on the hot tub side, you're always looking over on the play side, like
Yeah.
you're gonna, like you hear things and you want to see what's going on over there. And she made the joke that it was reversed that night. Everybody was looking in on the hot tub side because we were just having a ball.
We were having so much fun.
Oh my gosh!
And it was just a laugh a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I didn't want it to end.
Mm-hmm.
We were just having so much fun with everybody there. And we even had appearance from Swirly Bliss.
Swirly Bliss.
Swirly Bliss is this beautiful
She's
woman.
gorgeous.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Who loves to give hugs.
Loves to give hugs.
And naked hugs.
Oh, naked hugs.
Naked, wet hot tub hugs.
Oh, I love Swirly Bliss. So she came up those stairs.
Oh.
And she came into that hot tub. This is a woman who could light up a football field by herself.
She could. She had the personality of it, man. She was just amazing.
She came into that hot tub and she said, "I'd like to hug each of you." And she did. She went to every single person around that hot tub and gave everybody a hug. And they were good hugs.
They were good hugs. She was naked.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we were in the hot tub, right?
Gorgeous.
And she, I think Mr. Snow wanted an extra hug.
Oh.
But she just rubs her body all up. Oh, it was nice.
And it was really hot to watch her do that with the girls.
Yeah.
Oh, and she had these beautiful big titties.
She did.
Oh my god.
She had a beautiful body. I mean, she was just, wow. Okay.
Oh, every time she got out of the water, it was like a present. Oh, she and just such a wonderful person.
Yeah,
like she was
great
so
personality.
funny to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
And somewhere along the line, the subject of Hatties came back up.
Oh my gosh.
And she looked and she says, "Well, what's a Hattie?"
Well, and then you start the whole conversation over.
We started it all over, and we explained to her what a Hattie was.
Yeah.
And she, Mr. N was sitting there on the edge of the hot tub.
He and I were next to each other.
And yeah, you and him were next to each other. And she slid over to Mr. N
Mm-hmm.
and she said, I don't even know what she said. She
climbed him like a tree.
climbed him like a tree out of the hot tub.
And she put her leg over his head. I mean,
And she got into the position for the Hattie.
Oh my gosh.
And it was
I'm pretty sure Mr. N was like, "This is it. This is how I'm going to go." But I'm so excited.
This is how I'm going to die, but it's fine. And everyone was just rolling. They were
my
laughing
gosh,
so
yeah.
hard. I mean, and she's up there and she's like, "Is it like this?" So not only did I learn what a Hattie was, I got to see one perform.
Well, I don't know how far she got, but I mean, Mr. N was pretty pleased.
I don't think she got very far, but it was
Pretty funny.
It was impressive,
Mhm.
and it was fun to watch.
Oh yeah.
And just the smiles and the laughs.
Yeah.
I mean, it was.
It's like it should be illegal to have that much fun.
Oh my gosh, we had so much fun with
Yeah.
everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a clock on the other side of the wall.
Ugh.
And I'm watching the minutes tick by.
Yeah.
And
time just melts. So, I mean, we got there at 7:30.
I know.
And it felt like we were not there more than like an hour or two before 2 a.m. rolls around and the lights come on.
I know.
Like the stark, harsh fluorescent lights.
And I'm here to tell you, when the lights turn on, like the real lights turn on
Mhm.
in that playroom, it's
jarring.
It is jarring. I mean, that feels like a cold bucket of water. But just like that, it was all over.
Mm-hmm.
We climbed out. Everybody's heading for the lockers to get dressed.
Mm-hmm.
And we started saying some goodbyes to some people that we'd met. And we took some pictures with some people and kind of helped clean up a little bit. Put things away.
We were the last ones to leave with Mr. and Mrs. N.
Yep. And we went out in the parking lot and carried some of the stuff to their car for them.
Mm-hmm.
And as we were saying goodbye, I don't think either one of us wanted to really go through with it.
Actually leave, yeah.
And it was lots of hugs and it was lots of smiles. And it wasn't, sometimes separations are awkward, like people don't really know. You kind of stop talking and it gets weird and whatnot. And this just wasn't that. This was, I don't think anybody wanted to walk away.
No.
But it was time.
It was.
And so with that, we headed back to our car.
Yeah.
And headed back to the hotel.
Well, before we went to the hotel,
this was the dirtiest part of all.
This is the dirtiest part, 100%.
Well, at the suggestion of the Foxies,
yes,
we went and found the 24-hour McDonald's.
And there we were at 3 a.m.
Eating McDonald's. In the UK.
In the
parking lot.
In the parking lot.
Oh, God. There are places you just don't ever expect you'll be.
Oh, gosh, that was funny. It was delicious, by the way. It was delicious.
That's because we were freaking starving.
Yeah.
It's horrible, but we were freaking starving.
Oh, yeah. It was so good, though. So good.
So Sunday morning, we woke up.
Did not want to get out of bed.
We did not want to get out.
Because we decided, because we had stayed there till the end of the night.
Right.
We didn't get to say goodbye to everybody.
Right.
And so we wanted to make sure we saw everybody before we left.
Yep.
So breakfast was served until 11.
Yeah.
And checkout was at noon.
Right.
And we obviously went to bed at like 3:30.
Or 4.
Yeah.
I think we got down there around 10, something like that.
Yeah. So when the alarm went off at like 9:30, I was like, I don't want to get out of bed. So we went down and we had breakfast and we saw obviously several people that we didn't get to see Saturday. Well, we saw Saturday night, but we didn't get to say goodbye to. So it was a good time to see them.
It was really nice because most everybody was down there.
Mm-hmm.
And, from one person to the next, we kind of got to see everybody.
Right.
And lots of hugs.
Mm-hmm.
And it
kind
was
of the same thing. Like you just didn't want it to leave. Like we were like, we've got to, because we hadn't packed. Our fucking room was a disaster.
Oh my God. It was like our suitcases just exploded everywhere.
And so I was like, we have to go upstairs and we probably want to shower. And like, like we really need to get the fuck out of here. And it's like, yeah.
Yeah. So we said goodbye to everybody, which was really, really hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
We met all these people on Discord and we've chatted with them and now we've come out and met them.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we're going to keep chatting with these people.
Right.
But it's hard to come out and meet such an amazing group of people knowing that there's at least a decent chance that you may not see them again.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was some talk about a U.S. trip at some point.
Yeah.
Which we're going to do our best to try to put something like that together. But who knows if we'll make it work.
Mm-hmm.
It was just one of those things that you had to take it for what it was. And you had to be willing to just let it be that.
Right. So as that was coming to an end, and we had to go upstairs and pack our stuff and head out. Yeah, it was, one of the things that I remember talking about at that point, like, I'm an extrovert,
Yes.
right? There's no question about it. Like, I love people, but this whole trip was very people-y.
Yeah.
Or a lot. I mean, it was just nonstop.
Yeah.
Like engage, like just people. And I think what I wanted more than anything on Sunday, because we flew out on Monday, was to just reconnect with you.
Right.
Like, even though you and I did not engage in any swapping or any other real play, if you will, I just wanted to be with you.
Right.
I wanted that reconnecting with you. And also just to kind of process all of the things that we had done and experienced and conversations we had and laughs we had, and just, it was a lot.
It was.
It was amazing, but it was
and
just a lot.
Here we are at the end of 2 hours
Yeah.
of recording this story.
Yeah.
And I feel like as I'm listening to us talk about these things,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we're just scratching the surface
I know.
of what it was like.
Yeah.
There was so much. It's one of these where I keep having these flashes of different parts.
Yeah.
All these little things that happened and little conversations and so on. And it was an incredible experience. But you're right. Anytime we weren't asleep, we were on the move.
Yeah.
And it was very satisfying, but it was a lot.
It was a lot. And I just craved some time with you.
Yeah.
And we did that. So we drove up to Heathrow.
Right.
Because we were flying out obviously on Monday. And we had Sunday night with just us.
Yeah.
And it was amazing.
It was.
And we had just an amazing reconnecting session, I guess. I mean, it was just,
honestly, we had some of the best sex of our life that night.
yeah. And it was just something that there was so much intensity.
Yeah.
And so much energy. And again, I'm not upset about it. I'm not mocking it or upset. Like, it was amazing, but it was just a lot. And I think using all of that to just kind of reconnect with you.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
It was.
Um,
and I came so loud.
Oh my gosh. I had to put my hand over his mouth because I thought we were going to get kicked out of this hotel. I was like, oh my God, like, holy shit. Like, it was loud.
I couldn't, I think my entire soul exited through my cock in that moment.
It was amazing. But it was just needed. I think one of the things, when I think about this whole trip and experience, is I'm so grateful that we purposely, conscientiously had that time for us to just kind of come down.
Yeah.
Because it had been just so intense and so much energy and again, a lot of fun, but it was just a lot. So to purposely kind of have that time to just come down and process and just reconnect and be together and just be us, especially before, we ended up coming home and coming back to our vanilla lives. There was kind of that purposeful time.
Yeah.
Which I think is important.
Yeah. We have discovered that intentional us time is important after just about every play thing we do. It doesn't have to be like immediate in the moment, but that time to reconnect. I like that term better too.
Right.
It was
other than reclaiming, you mean?
Yeah, because we've mentioned reclaiming before. The reclaiming term is kind of hot, but I think it was even Captain Barbarossa who commented that he likes the term reconnecting better, and I think I agree with him on that. Yeah, because I don't own you. Right. I'm not claiming anything that belongs to me. I mean, even though it's kind of fun to talk like that here and there, like I don't own you. So like the idea of just us reconnecting together, I think is awesome. Some basic listener questions just to finish things up. You drive on the wrong side of the road from our perspective. Right. And you drive on the wrong side of the car.
Correct.
This question was, In the UK, are the G spots also on the wrong side of the vagina?
Wouldn't it be the back side of the vagina?
I don't know. I can never find either one.
Jeez.
Yeah, so I guess I can't answer this listener question because I don't know. I mean, they could be.
I mean, could be. Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah. We'll just go with that.
I think, is it like Australia?
Is it
where
down
like,
under?
you know how like the toilets flush like the other way?
Yeah.
Do you have to swirl the clit the opposite direction over there?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe you should try both ways with me. See what happens.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
Weirdest conversation that you participated in or overheard?
I mean, hands down, it has to be the conversation that we talked about on the podcast with Mr. and Mrs. N about the lovely lady who could shoot cocks out of her vagina.
Yeah.
Dildos.
The shooting dildos.
And the writing people's names
yeah.
with her pussy.
Her nickname is Sharpie.
I can't even, although, I mean, the whole Hattie experience, I'm going to say Hattie experience because it was more than a conversation.
It did become an experience.
It was several conversations and an experience.
It was, yeah.
That was, I mean, just,
that was
it reaffirms that there is something for everybody.
There is.
Yeah.
There is. But yeah, I agree. The shooting dildos conversation and writing your name was definitely the strangest.
Mm-hmm.
It was funny. I enjoyed that conversation very much, but that would not have been a conversation I expected to have.
Yeah. There was a funny conversation. It wasn't weird by any means, but you know, there was there was a woman that we were talking to that just was very meek and sweet and just looked very just innocent. And she talked very matter-of-factly about, well, there was this one time that I was blowing this guy and this guy was taking me from behind and they came at the same time. I mean, she just talked about it. So I was like, it was just kind of bizarre. Like, this is not what I would expect, but
that was hilarious.
It was so funny.
This woman she's so, she's beautiful. It's not like anything like that, but it's just, she's not at all that's not what you expect
she's
her to
say. She's very quiet and she just appears very quiet and meek.
Yeah.
She's not.
No, she's not. No, yeah, no, she's like the naughty librarian. She is, she is very nice, very sweet. That's the last thing you expect.
That's the last thing that you would expect her to say.
But she's talking about these two men that are just fucking her. And then she's like, and then they just came at the same time. And it was like, that was hilarious.
Yeah, it was very funny.
That was very funny. All right. So the last question, would you come back?
Yes, 100% I would come back.
In a heartbeat.
Yeah. I mean, just, you know, it's, I feel like we have friends for life, right? Like we have people that we have made these amazing connections with and just been able to just spend some really good quality time with them and laughed. And I feel like if any of them called us and said, hey, I'm coming to the state, we would just make it work.
Yeah.
We would 100% be like, we have to go see them.
Absolutely we would. Yeah. No, there's not a single person that I wish we had not met.
Right.
Except for the guy that grabbed your thigh.
Yeah. He's on my list.
He's on my list. But no, everybody was just phenomenal. And I was trying to explain this to people in that it's just, I'm shocked, blown away, impressed. I don't even know, but that everybody is exactly as I hoped they would be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Everybody was just great. And we're just so grateful to everybody for being so welcoming and taking time to come see us. And it was an amazing, amazing birthday.
Yeah.
Like hands down, the best birthday I have ever had and probably will ever have.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. It was so much fun.
Well, Mrs. Snow.
Yes, Mr. Snow.
I think it's time.
Yeah.
That we go reconnect.
I agree.
Until next time.
I tell you, it is amazing that this podcast is like the greatest foreplay.
Oh, it is. It is. I was trying to tell somebody that we have sex after this podcast just about every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that being said, thank you for listening to our journey. Keep listening. And we look forward to hearing your questions. And we'll see you on the Discord.
See you soon.
Bye. We want to hear from you. Email us at snowmilf@yahoo.com. That's SNOMILF@yahoo.com. You can also join us on our Discord and have some fun interactive conversations with us. The link is in the show notes. Talk to you soon.